I'll bring this meeting to order on June 10th, 2025 at 7 p.m. with a call to excuse our missing members, Mark Strong and James Kepper.
I move to approve Mark and James being absent.
Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those, same sign. We'll begin with the Pledge of Allegiance.
There we go.
Ready? Begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Any changes to the agenda?
No changes.
Okay, and then communications?
Yes, we do have a response to public comment. So at the school board meeting on May 27th, 2025, teachers from the high school expressed support for the World Language Program and the importance of offering 2 language options for students. The district response is as follows. The district agrees with the teachers who commented at the school board meeting on May 27th. The district is committed to offering 2 language options for students. That concludes the public response to public comment.
Thank you, Dr. Finch. And it looks like we have a program presentation tonight.
Yes, tonight is a review of our school year and specifically the strategic plan and the work that we've done in those areas. And so it looks like you have your laptops so that you can follow along. I will go join the presentation. So we'll have goal 1 is our culture of safety and belonging. I'll present on that. Goal 2 is strong foundations. We'll have Michelle Seguenza, principal of Cottonwood Elementary, and Jennifer Ditter, a teacher and instructional coach at Cottonwood Elementary. They'll present about strong foundations. Goal 3 is mastery of standards. We'll have our principals at the mid-level campus, middle school principal Nick Clark and junior high principal Amber Stiles Gill. They will present about mastery of standards. And then we have goal 4, career pathways. So our executive director of innovation is Jed Waters. And so he'll share information about secondary career pathways. And finally, I'll wrap up with our district foundations, and I'll go join the team right now.
Thank you.
All right, so we worked on the strategic plan all last year. The board adopted the plan, and then we implemented this school year. I'm going to share the different goal areas of the strategic plan and our presenters. I really appreciate all of the administrative team working with all of our staff to implement the strategic plan. And in our presentations to the board throughout the year, we had our school presentations and department presentations. I notice always a reference to the strategic plan, and I really appreciate that by the administrators showing that follow through. For goal 1, culture of safety and belonging, our practices to implement this year was that teachers will actively promote and model an environment that respects all students' backgrounds and experiences by using routines that deepen relationships. And staff will explicitly teach, reteach, and reinforce school and classroom expectations throughout the year. Our outcome and things that we're measuring. So the outcomes, we always want to have measurable objectives for our strategic plan. How will we know if we're being successful unless we measure it? So our outcome was to increase the percentage of students feeling a sense of safety and belonging. We have formative assessments, meaning check-in or progress monitoring. And so we had student surveys at all of our schools every 2 months to do that check-in. And then the summative assessment is our annual survey of students, staff, and families. So we do that summative assessment right around conference week in the fall. So November and December is when we do the Center for Educational Effectiveness. And we do post those results of the summative assessment. We post those on the district website under the strategic plan section of the website. And there is a little button on the website that you can click on, and that was a suggestion by one of our school board members. So we're always looking for continuous improvement, and if there's suggestions on how to be better communication, more transparent, we always try to follow up on that. We also look at student attendance data throughout the year as well, as our summative assessment. And so now I'm going to share with you the interim or formative or progress monitoring assessment information we had at each of our schools. So culture of safety and belonging, I feel safe at school. That was a question that was asked by all of our students at all the schools. You can see the work that was done there. I believe there was, there's basically very transparent. on both of these, as I had reviewed, some of you was an area where there's work to be done in comparison to the other schools. And we do have a plan already for work with the staff. They have building directed optional times. So that's each school has specific time designated that they can work on specific school goals. And so they have a consultant working on that culture of safety and belonging coming in, and that's already scheduled. And then, yeah, this is the one here too. Most students are respectful of others at this school. And then that's the one where it does kind of look like some of you has some work to do there compared to the other schools. And I just really, again, appreciate the principal sharing this information. I remember Mountain View kind of jumps out there where they were at 75% in November and then up to 95% of students in April saying most students are respectful of others at this school. So this has been a focus across our district. All right, next is Strong Foundations, and that's going to be Michelle Seguenza and Jennifer Dinner. So just a reminder that we don't have the microphones in the room like we used to have, so I kind of project.
Do you want us to scream?
Not project.
Okay. Classroom voice.
Yeah, classroom voice.
All right. Hi, I'm Michelle Seguenza, the principal at Cottonwood Elementary. And goal 2, Strong Foundations, is our school improvement plan, one of the practices. So the first one there, teachers will facilitate student talk and language acquisition in a vocabulary-rich environment. And the school leaders will make that happen through modeling strategies for increasing student talk. School leaders will also provide accountability for instructional practices by observing, providing feedback, and celebrating success. They will also provide support to teachers through peer observation and instructional coaching. And then our next one, teachers will use guaranteed and viable curriculum, includes intentional tiered support with data-driven inclusion interventions. And principals or school leaders will provide accountability through the use of a guaranteed viable curriculum by observing, giving feedback, and celebrating success. They will also provide support to staff by providing time for collaboration. And lastly, they will facilitate data meetings to identify needed interventions so that we can reach those strong foundation goals. And I'm going to turn it over to Mrs. Ditter. Oh, next slide. Next.
Here.
Okay. Also, sorry, we didn't practice very well. Also under strong foundations, the outcome is to increase the percentage of students reading at grade level. And the way that we make that happen is through iReady reading, winter growth, the winter and the spring growth. And we also want to see the percentage of kids that are moving through the grade levels. We use iReady spring again as one of the assessments, and iReady reading, so reading and math. And again, we want to see the growth that the kids are making at each grade level.
And I'm just going to talk a little bit about implementation. So at all of the elementary schools this year, we had a new curriculum adoption, that HMH into reading, which provides a guaranteed and viable curriculum for our ELA in grades K through 5. One of the key components of that curriculum is that it does align with the science of reading. So students learn in ways that are scientifically proven to work. It's used across all district K-5. So all students are guaranteed access to that same research-based curriculum. The district has also been very intentional to get our teachers GLAD certified. GLAD stands for Guided Language Acquisition and Design, and these are strategies that help students develop academic language while they're learning the content. That they work for all students to really increase the engagement and rigor of the content. Jesse Goldbeck and I are Tier 3 trainers, and the district has supported us in providing trainings to get all teachers certified. Each year we target the new teachers and teachers who have not yet been able to get certified. So we provide a research and theory training, which is a one-day training, and a couple of demos each year, one targeted for the primary grades and another targeted for the intermediate grades. So teachers have an opportunity to come see the strategies in practice and get certified in them. We also had provided some after-school offerings focusing on supporting the new HMH curriculum and integrating those strategies into the curriculum, as well as some release time for teachers to come and work on integrating those strategies into other curriculum areas as well. At Cottonwood, all of our teachers, K-5 are GLAD trained, and they implement the strategies at varying degrees. In looking at the data recently, I can clearly see how they work, especially at targeting the vocabulary piece, which is, after phonics, vocabulary is the next step in reading learning. And so once you can kind of get better at that, then it impacts your comprehension as well. So also, district is continuing our work with the badge book in grades K through 2. Students earn badges as they master each grade level skill. And through our mastery-based learning grant, we've been developing proficiency scales, which we have plans on. Proficiency scales, first of all, they're a tool to provide students and teachers and parents with a clear pathway for meeting the grade level standards. We have plans to begin using them in the upcoming year. They're a work in progress, but we're excited to see them as they develop and continue. So.
All right. Good evening, gentlemen. I'm Nick Clark. I'm the principal of the middle school, and we've really been focusing at the middle level campus not only on goal 1, which is a district-wide goal, but goal 3, which is our mastery of standards. So just know that our identified practices that are aligned with our mastery-based work that we've been developing for the last couple of years with our mastery-based consortium that we've been working with throughout the state. And so we're identified, we've been part of that program as well. So the practices that we've identified through our strategic plan has been teachers provide targeted instruction, strategies, and multiple opportunities using evidence to inform teaching with ongoing feedback. And teachers will know and use common assessments, the power or essential standards that we've identified, and proficiency levels and scales that Cottonwood's been developing and we've been working on for multiple years now. So we've got a few years under our belts with this, and so Amber's going to kind of touch up on our identified outcomes from these practices, and where we're going to go from there. So,
all right. So we are working on increasing the percentage of students that are meeting grade level standards in all classes. And we have asked our teachers to identify what formative assessments they're using and share that information with us. So they've developed some things like in their classrooms and departments so that we can track that data and see how kids are doing over time and not wait until fall, winter, spring data. But we do use iReady reading and math assessments just like elementary, and then some of our content areas have standard assessments that they use every 4 to 6 weeks. It just varies on the content. But everybody's working to track how their kids are doing so we can see what we need to reteach, things that we just need to get back to and work to get all kids where they need to be. And then of course we have our summative assessments. So we've been wrapping up our state assessments, Smarter Balance and ELA and math, also the science, 8th grade science assessment, our iReady data, and just again, looking at the percentage of students that are meeting those grade level standards.
all right. So as we finish up, kind of talk about where we started. And this year we took that big plunge into standards-based grading and mastery-based learning. And so we are starting to kind of feel our way through that and really make our adjustments. We got great ideas moving forward from that. We've had great parent feedback as well. And so as we find these pitfalls that maybe weren't identified before we started this process, we're starting to clean those up right now. So some of the things that we've started with is implementing that into Skyward using our LMS, which is learning management system, and developing how we're going to be able to manipulate that and make sure that our parents and our students are able to see that feedback through that system. We're fine-tuning our proficiency scales. Mr. talked about developing them. They're never finished developing, I don't think. They're constantly moving and shaking. So, and moving through our practices, what it looks like for retakes, what it takes for student deadlines. We're working through those as well. And onboarding our elective teachers, we focused on the core 4 for the first couple of years, and now we're really bringing on our elective and our exploratory classes as well. And Amber's going to talk about a little bit about where we're going.
So our next steps are on the right-hand side. So we're super excited that we get to implement new reading curriculum. So thank you for that adoption. we're excited because that will mean that our 6-8 teachers will have a guaranteed and viable curriculum, which they do, but they've been piecing things together. So I just have a lot of hope that we're going to be on the same page. We're going to be doing some really good things for our kids. So that's exciting. But along with that, they're going to need to continue to develop common assessments. You know, some of the things they have right now might work, but with the new curriculum, they'll need to adapt and of course use that. And so there'll be some changes. They'll make adjustments. They'll make adjustments to their proficiency scales. Our teachers have worked hard to identify their essential standards, and so that piece is really solid. It'll just be a matter of bringing that all together over the next few years as they get used to their curriculum. And then as a district, we'll be working on teacher clarity next year. And so for us, what that looks like is really drawing a line from the standards to the tasks and making sure that the tasks students are doing are actually aligned with the standards. And if they're not, then we need to ask ourselves, like, why are we doing that? Why are those the things we're spending time on? And that's hard for teachers, right? Because we have a lot of things that we like to teach and do and that we've possibly done for a long time, but we're diving into those hard conversations and going to do some more work with that. And then our math team is really working hard to do some vertical teaming. They've asked a couple times this year to get together and do work 6-8, but they also really like working with our high school teachers and making sure they're aligned there. And our high school teachers, they're going to pilot, at least some of them I know, are piloting some materials, some Desmos math materials, because they haven't adopted in a long time. And so as a part of that, we asked if at least one of our algebra teachers could be a part of that, so we can have conversations. We want our kids, if they're taking algebra at the junior high, we want to make sure that they're getting what they need, you know, whether they're at the junior high or the high school. So we're excited just for our teachers to be able to continue to work together and do good things and make sure all kids are getting where they need to be.
Yeah, and Amber and I always like our staff's commitment and dedication to this paradigm shift and how they're out there. They're really doing well. They're really taking it head on. It's a big change and they're doing a great job.
We should give a shout out to our coaches too. Our instructional coaches have been a huge help in the process for like all of our mastery-based learning, standards-based grading. I don't think we would be where we are right now if it wasn't for them. So.
Agreed. All right, Jed Waters is going to step up for goal 4.
All right, Jed Waters, Executive Director, Innovation, work with the High School Innovation Center and Mid-Level Campus. With the Innovation Center, we kind of run part of Goal 3 and Goal 4. With Goal 4, really to sum up, we have a number of slides I'll go through. I won't read everything because they gave me twice as much slides as everybody else, but that's all I'm going to be taking. Really, a lot of it comes down to building upon everything they've done or that we've done up to or the high school level, is helping students understand the why. You know, as we get to elementary, even mid-level, students I just show up because that's what I do. I like school, I enjoy it, I'm learning all these things. As we start to get to older levels and we start to push in the rigor, the mastery standards, now it's, why am I learning the standard? Why is this important? How does this connect back to my life? So really Goal 4 is building those connections, trying to connect it to their future after graduation, after high school, after, you know, outside of the school day. So that's a lot of it. So as we get through some of the data, sometimes it's hard in a school to measure what that future is because we might be looking 5, 10, 15 years down the road. So you see some of our data, we're looking at measuring grades, graduation rates. Our goal is if you're engaged in your learning, you have a reason why, well, then your grades should do better. You should be mastering your standards a little more, and you should be graduating because you see a purpose to staying with the school for 4 years versus, well, if I can get a job, I might as well tap out, things of that nature. So as we go through some of the data in the slides, a lot of it becomes what's the relevance. And I think that's a goal nowadays that's a little bit harder because there is a lot of options. There's a lot of things thrown at students in their life at school and really outside of their life at school. So that's kind of our main purpose, and some of the things we'll talk about now is connecting those whys. So first part is looking at every student using a high school and beyond plan. So the goal of that plan is actually starting down really at the 6th grade level is building a plan so you can start to see this is where I'm going. This is how my classes connect. These are things I'm interested in. So as I start to look at classes, whatever it might be, band, choir, CT class, some other electives, college and high school, I start to build a pathway. So if I want to be an engineer, I start to look at, oh, I'm going to need some calc. I'm going to need some of this. I also should maybe take the construction class here because if I'm going to be helping design buildings or smaller parts, I should know how that works out. So a lot of that then fits into this part there. Yeah, I won't read every slide. It was, you guys have the presentation there. You'll be able to read a lot of works. But that's some of the things we've done. So I'll look at some of our assessments, and it's really how many students are passing classes. What's our rate that way? But again, that's if I'm engaged, I'm doing well in classes, see relevance to do the work. If I'm not engaged, there just isn't much relevance. Our goal is to keep every kid engaged, building relevance, passing classes as well. We started looking at some things we've done this year, just a sample of the high school did a lot of work with career pathway flyers. So promoting individual courses, creating sequence of courses, pathways, and then as well as creating all the CT courses along with some of our special education programs. So as students started to register, they could see that in a graphic and see how those courses flow. The innovation center, we have that as well, the pathways. Here it's a little harder because the students can pick a little bit differently each year. Some things it's not as easy to lead on. It actually was led by staff with some of the things the staff said, hey, how do I help my students connect? So there's some staff feedback on that way. Again, teachers really help make connections. Last year, we took some students out on field trip, or some teachers out to different businesses. They got to see, that was one of the things we did at the start of the year. That was great because then they could come back and for the rest of the year, they were building those connections. We'd look to do more of that in the future. Oh, yep. So here we go. One more thing is there. And then we're implementing schooling. So the state is adopting a new high school and beyond platform. Their goal is to get everybody in the state on the same platform. It has run into a few hiccups with the state budget and some other things that way. The West Valley School District is looking to adopt that anyway. We're previously using Zello, so we're going to make the transition. The nice part about moving to schooling is if all the schools are using it, the state's providing some additional training. It helps as we start to have colleges come and visit. Right now we have Jessie Allen, our career and college pathway specialist. She's in trying to make spreadsheets on scholarships, what colleges are visiting, all this different information. But with School Links, a lot of those employers or colleges can actually feed their data right into it. So it's going to save a lot of time that way. So we should be able to streamline how we see scholarships, how students sign up for tours. We've had multiple tours. We had HLA engineering. We had a group of students go there a few different times. We had some engineering people in here. Innovation Center, same thing, a lot of tours. So using schooling should help to unify that. And again, we can start that at 6th grade level as students are exploring. We start to look into 9th grade students on track. Again, a lot of that is how do they build the relevance to what they're doing. So our students that are coming in maybe a little bit behind track or aren't quite engaged or don't have a purpose as they're stepping into high school, there's conversations between the high school, the Innovation Center, and mid-level campus, identifying those students, then providing some support. So one thing that the high school started this year was a high school one-on-one class to do a little bit of academic support, but really try to help the students find a place in high school, get them into clubs, start talking about summer jobs, different things that way, talk about sports, talk about different pathways and opportunities of classes they can do here. So that's been a great class to really connect students into what their future. So then as they're going through the rest of their grades, they're building those, they already have some of those connections already made. Give a look at some of the outcomes there, percentage of 9th grade students on track. Again, our goal is if there's a reason why you're doing it, then you're more engaged to do it. Talk about high school 101. I'm on the next slide then. Family engagement conferences. That was something now the high school, the Innovation Center and the high school also do those throughout the year. So in the past, sometimes they've only been done in the fall. And then afterwards, it was like, well, a conference is an elementary thing. We won't do it anymore. Really, we brought those in because that helps build the connection. Teachers, students, and families get to work together to find some of those connections and start to identify, any questions they might have about why they're in certain classes, what classes they should take in the future, and building, getting those connections. High school's done a lot with peer tutoring, so that's an area that they've really grown. Erica Daly is one of the teachers that's done a lot with that. Again, a number of teachers have. They've really done a lot with peer tutoring this past year. In the high school next year, we'll have a careers and education class. It's going to tie in. So we got some good things coming up at the high school level. Innovation Center, we get a number of peer tutoring too. I just highlighted some things in the high school there just for sake of time. So we're looking at dual credit. The district's really grown a lot in our dual credit pathways in the past. There's a lot of options for students to really get all the gen eds they're going to need in post-secondary. And our goals trying to promote a lot of that too is you can do a lot of great things here in-house. At the high school Innovation Center, there's a lot of great options for students without having to go to Running Start or go elsewhere or try to graduate early, get those credits. There's a lot of great things that we're doing in-house. The nice things with dual credit, whether it be in college and high school or CT dual credit, is you get the support of the teachers here, the counselors, everything that way. It's things you're familiar with. My son in college right now, he was talking about he took calculus here and really would have prepared him for Calc 3. going into college. Just one of those things, but it was the connection with the teacher and having a teacher that knew calculus, but also knew how to teach. So that's a shout out to Jamie Nordstrom if he's listening there. Is he said it, some like professors he done in college, having compared, but again, was that college opportunity for credit, but getting it kind of in the safe confines of the school and having teachers that have a teaching background along with subject area background. So again, we're continuing to grow dual credit in ways that, again, next year the Innovation Center is going to partner with the high school, first and second period, which allow Innovation Center students to take college and high school courses here so they can get some of that dual credit. Our goal is when they start to expand, the student says, hey, I really like some of the great program at the Innovation Center, but I still have some things, Spanish, band, or really college and high school I want to do here. They can hear 2 periods, over there 4 periods for bulk master-based learning. So we have some great combination stuff coming up to really highlight the strengths of both buildings. Now, let's see, got there. Again, our goal of going back is if students are taking college and high school courses, they have a relevance to why they're learning what they're learning. They start to then graduate with a lot of post-secondary credits. They're graduating and then they're moving on to different opportunities, whether it be Perry Tech, whether that be YVC, Central, anywhere else. Lots of apprenticeship programs. So I think that's one of the neat things is we've really done with our college and career pathway specialists is to promote all opportunities, because there's lots of opportunities for success, whether you're going right into employment or not. But our goal is to connect students to those before they leave here, not just hope they find them on their own. Because then what happens is we get a year to 8 year gap where they're kind of wandering around trying to find those. So the more things we can do with our staff here to help the staff know all the options, because if you've been in teaching for 30 years, the world is quite a bit different. So the more things we can do to connect staff to those options, get them out in employment places, get them to tour Central, other places like that, the more things they can do to push in their classrooms. So when we provide those opportunities to high school students or Innovation Center students, then the teachers are able to promote that because they've gone on it and they see the relevance versus, well, just go do this, but I don't know why you're doing it. A lot of different things we're doing to build the why. We'll continue to do that. Here's some data from last year. I'm on the next slide that just talks about, this is our 23-24 data. We have about almost 1,200 students enrolled in college and high school courses at the high school. And then we had about 65% of those actually took the course for college credit, earned college credit. This summer work with Central and UW actually can give us all that data in July. We're hoping that Eastern can do the same. So last year we had all of our teachers report after they did grading. It's kind of hard after all the teachers have left to get back their data, but we'll be doing some partnership with the universities to give us that data right away so we get real-time data from them. And that, if we can get it in time, it'll be data summit. Otherwise, it'll be over the fall. The ability to get some of that data there. Kind of hit a lot of this again. Our goal is teachers assisting students with setting goals, constructing learning environments that empower students. So we have a lot of opportunities. Our construction class next year here has, I think, 4 sections. So actually, we're going to have Keegan Powers is going to teach a class. We'll help get him trained on some stuff with construction because we're overloaded there. We have Bob Balderson and Stephen Matzek, our geometry and construction teacher. In 2 weeks are going to construction geometry training. So again, that's how do we start building those connections between math and technical trades. We do a lot at the Innovation Center, but bringing more of that to high school as well. I'll create that why. Well, it goes back to increasing graduation rate and really, I think, impacting our community. So again, as a school, we might measure graduation rate, but I think really as a community, we want to impact what are our graduates doing? How are they impacting our community after they leave here? How successful are they? How are they contributing back? And how are they just as citizens? So that's, in the end, that's our overall goal as a district is we're going to create great citizens that have a reason for what they're doing. Last thing I'll say before I hand it back over to Dr. Finch is through all this, a lot of it, again, understanding the why, getting hands-on learning opportunities. And then one thing we'll, as administrators, we'll be focusing on is teacher clarity. So as I'm instructing my class, are students clear on what they're learning and the why of it? So that kind of goes back to as we go through our learning blocks, we go into other things, our evaluation process over the next year, really focusing on how clear is it for the students that what they're doing is relevant to a connection and what they need to be doing after they leave here or applicable in their daily lives as a team. So.
All right, thank you, Jed.
Yes.
And then finally, we have the district foundation. So that's systems to ensure high quality student learning, authentic engagement and partnerships with student families and community, facilities and operations to support an outstanding student experience, and an overall culture of excellence, accountability, and continuous improvement. So we have each department here in the spring has given their reports on the areas that they're have accomplished this past year and areas of focus for the future. So really what I wanted to highlight here was the work of the Long Range Facilities Planning Committee. So that's been a big focus. The board had asked to have a recommendation that would come to them in the fall. As we worked together on the committee really was saying that we'd like to make that recommendation sooner. So as administrator, it's important to listen to the committee members. And so we were able to work with the consultant, Phil Crocker, that is providing the guidance and facilitation skills. And we moved the timeline up, and that's part of my board report. Joel was at the meeting last night, so we will be able to come to the school board on the July 8th, Tuesday night, July 8th, with a recommendation from the Long Range Facilities Planning Committee. So really happy with the process that's happened there, and glad that the committee was pushing to move it up. It's going to be great for the board to hear the initial presentation in July rather than waiting till October. And so just again, part of district foundations, that's part of our long range facilities planning is a big part of that, of the foundation. We're going to have facilities and operations to support an outstanding student experience. And the plan that's going to be presented will address every area that was identified as an area of need by the committee. So looking forward to that presentation. All right, so at this time, any questions for the board for any of the presenters?
I just want to say thank you. First of all, that was like a whirlwind. It was a really good whirlwind.
Yeah.
And I just appreciate all the work you guys are doing, because I mean, I can just feel the cooperation with different people and coming together and just making it work, and all for the students. So I didn't really at this time have any questions. Most of my questions come when it all comes down to the data summit, like what's it looking like. But I just appreciate you guys being here tonight presenting.
Yeah.
And, thank you.
Very similar. I'm just blown away by the cohesive unity that you all share. All of you are shining stars in your own respects, and yet you all come together to make the whole. And it's just really admirable and remarkable to see how well you guys function together and how our students are blessed because of you. Thank you.
I echo what my fellow board members said. I do have a few questions. I just want to start off by a comment, though, on the dual credits at the high school. So I have a daughter that graduated from West Valley 3 years ago and did some college and the high school classes, but I'm seeing the benefit of the dual credits in all of the things that you mentioned, Jed, but also through some tremendous financial savings to our families, because I have some contemporaries of my daughter who are graduating after 3 years of being at college. They graduate literally with their BA from wherever they went to school, and they're graduating this year. And there's a lot of great things about that, but that is a huge financial savings, because if you can do those classes here at West Valley High School and they translate over or transfer over to the college that they're using, that's a great benefit to our families. So I just wanted to start off with a comment there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Back on that, Michael. So Jed, in his presentation, I think he glossed over it with just almost a phrase, not even a full sentence, but Jed has done so much work to ensure that we're offering the classes on this high school campus that align to the requirements at the college level, not just the entrance requirements for college, but the entrance into a major. So we're at the point now where, as a high school student in West Valley, you can take all the requirements needed as prerequisite for a major. And so you can do basically your freshman year of college on this campus and go directly into a major at Central. And so we branded that Ram to Wildcat. And more information about that is on the district website under Ram to Wildcat. But that is a great advantage for coming to West Valley. You can do your entire freshman year of college on this campus and then go straight into your major.
And along with the dual credit, not everybody's cut out to go to college or university, and that's okay. But along with that, and as it was highlighted a little bit, and it was certainly highlighted when we were at the Innovation Center recently about, it comes back to the value that a West Valley High School degree affords you, whether you're college bound, technical school bound, trade, whatever that is. I really have enjoyed the additional value that we're providing to our families and our students. Most importantly, our students at, the value that a high school degree from West Valley provides. So that was just kind of a long-winded comment. That just a few questions and maybe just some confirmations. First, relative to, so we got a few snippets of some data about like how we're doing, and when we look at this pamphlet. It talks about performance targets by 2030 being some objective measurables. And I can also understand that not all of the data is available yet. So my question is, are you thinking, Dr. Finch, that in our upcoming regular data summits that we have, that we're gonna have, okay, here's pre-strategic plan. Here's 1 year into the strategic plan. How do we match up on the performance? Do you kind of see, is that kind of how you see it once the data is available?
Yes, especially here in the spring, a lot of the data is still not ready to report. Not all the testing is completed, not all the testing has been reported back to us. So our data summit we have scheduled for July, we'll have a lot more data to share with you. And then on the district website, under the strategic plan, there's key performance indicators. So those are very public, and as that data comes in, I always update that data as well. So that data, there's not like a set deadline when that data comes in, but as the data comes in, then I just update it. And so that's in real time. That's the most up-to-date data that we have. And those are the key performance indicators for the strategic plan, and those are on the website.
Great. But I mean, in terms of a report to the board,
yes,
that's kind of how you envision it being, okay?
Yeah, part of the data summit.
Part of the data summit, okay, thank you. Then you back to goal 1, Dr. Finch, and you mentioned this a little bit ago relative to the numbers that came back about respect and safety at school, and one particular school having a plan to address that. Could you speak a little bit more specifically about what does that plan look like, and a little bit more specifics on the professional development that
Well, that's,
you kind of alluded to?
Yeah, so we have Angela Brooks as a consultant and as a specialist when it comes to really the social emotional learning, so having that foundation of support for kids. And that's really what we're talking about here when we're talking about an environment where students are being respectful of each other. So understanding the expectations and then the follow through, both positive and holding students accountable for their behaviors. And part of the work that some of you was piloting the PBIS tool, and then all the elementaries that the mid-level campus use. And we heard the presentation earlier in the year about how effective that was. And so that's going to be useful at all our elementary schools, and I think that'll be particularly useful at some of you because it's a tool where the teachers can input in real time information about a kid that maybe they're needing more time for a check-in with that student and more intervention basically with that student. And so that'll be a way to communicate with the counseling office, with the principal, and really have a team approach to addressing any of the behaviors that need to be addressed.
And then, thank you. And then kind of as a segue to the Innovation Center where if I read the numbers correctly, we score relatively high when it comes to I feel safe at school, but our challenge, I'll use the word challenged on the I feel respected at school questions. So I don't necessarily expect an answer to the why do you think that is, but more of or did I miss that, or are we going to be diving into the why on that issue? And if so, can you comment about, what sorts of initiatives are we going to take to not only address the why, but to increase the number of the students feeling respected at school?
Exactly. Yeah, I think, Jed, you can
Sure.
speak for you in a second, but just overall, my work with the principals We, at the very beginning, talked about the strategies for that goal 1, and part of that was having teachers have routines and checking in with students and having these routines to start the class period, or having routines on a weekly basis, or even maybe a monthly class meeting, these type of things. And so in our student focus groups that we have, both at the high school and the Innovation Center, we have heard that there's varying degrees of implementation of those practices. So I'm not going to stand here and say that we're perfect and doing it 100% across
Sure.
every classroom. So we do have work to do on sort of that idea of fidelity of implementation of these best practices. And that's what we work on as an admin team, working with the teachers to ensure that these best practices that students report are making a more environment where kids are being respectful of each other, that those are happening across the board. And so I remember Jed and I had the focus group at the Innovation Center, and we heard that, yes, when we have these class meetings, that's a really good time to address like the behaviors that are happening, because especially at the Innovation Center, they're with each other all day long. And so you got to take time to kind of check in, how are things going, what do we need to address? And the students are saying when the teachers take that time, it is effective and it helps to make the environment better. And so Jeff worked to follow up to make sure that all the teachers were taking that time and doing it periodically to have the class meetings, I think they were calling them. And so that's kind of our work as administrators, is to make sure we work with teachers to identify best practice and then make sure that's happening across the board. Jeff, go ahead.
I was gonna say, I think too is part of now we've hired an assistant director of innovation. You saw my slide, the things that I'm doing throughout the district and the building. So that is one area that of growth we have as a building, just because it's hard to get into the day-to-day, taking care of some of those things along with the other bigger things. But I think the good or bad of the innovation, I'd say the great part of it is the students become like family. But sometimes in like a long car ride with your family, little things that then annoy you that in a traditional setting, in 45, 50 minutes, you're like, oh, I'm not seeing that student again. Now you're with them. So you're in really, right now we're ending like 100 and we're on day 178 of a car ride. That's usually if you think about your summer vacations coming up after about day 7, you're like, okay, we maybe need vacations. And so,
But they have a family meeting, right?
So some great things coming. And I think like Dr. Fish said, it's a lot of those things we can learn and continue, because I think there's a lot of great strengths in those cohorts. So we'll be building them.
Great. And then my last question is for Nick and Amber. I know that probably this has been explained to us before, but could you just maybe re-educate us on the difference between standards-based grading and maybe what I'll call more traditional grading that I might be used to?
Okay, so standards-based grading, we're looking at like the standards, right? Like every grade level has their standards, and every
In a particular subject.
yeah, so each content area, each grade level, we have standards for each of those. So we want all kids to get to that standard. And so when you look at like the 1, 2, 3, 4, just like we have in our elementary schools, a 3 would be you're at standard. A 2 means like you've got some foundational pieces, or maybe you need a little bit of help with that. And a 1, you're pretty far from the mark, but given this method, maybe you have a couple foundational skills. And of course, 4 is like the above and beyond. You're able to go beyond that standard and show more complex thinking or something along those lines. So really, it's just what we're doing at the mid-level is a continuation of what's been happening at our elementaries for the last over 20-some years. Is that can we answer? Like, what else are you
Compare it to like an ABC.
Right, so
We can't compare it.
No,
because
yeah.
It's not completion and compliance.
that's what I was gonna bring
Yeah.
up. Completion of compliance, right? If the daily work, if I got it turned in my daily work, whether I learned it or not, if I completed it, I
Right.
should get some sort of grade out of that. But I may have not picked it up. What standards-based does is that it requires you to gain that knowledge, to gain that concept before you can reach that threshold of that 3 or that 4. And so when we change it from a completion and compliance model to a growth model, because that's what it is, because you're growing throughout, that's what I think one of our biggest benefits this year is going to that is now we're not labeling students as failures. They're never labeled because they're always in an opportunity of growth. And so when you're a 1, you still got some skills, and you still got some effort, and we're just gonna keep building on you. But when we give somebody an F, now it labels them, and now we see a change in effort, and we see a change in attitude sometimes as well. So what we're seeing is a big change in the growth model. Those kids aren't giving up. We're not losing kids in October, right? They're still sticking with it. So we're just focused on the standards. We're shooting for the standards. We're giving them a scale to reach to show that they have proficiency in that standard, and we're not labeling them as failures. So that's kind of what.
And so when you're measuring that level of proficiency, like let's say that they are a 3, which basically to me says meets the standard, there's criterion associated with what does that actually mean.
Right.
For
That's like the proficiency scale. So if you think of a proficiency scale looks similar to like what we would say like a rubric, right?
Yeah.
So like if I'm teaching, I don't know, 5th or 6th grade ELA, and I expect my kids to be able to cite text evidence when answering the question, you know, whatever content area. The 3 is that they're going to do that, right? But I've got those parameters, what that looks like. I'm expecting you to restate the question, use evidence from the text, cite that, be able to highlight that in the text if that's an option. Like I would have my expectations for what that looks like so that I know that you really understand what I'm asking you to do, and that would be the 3.
right.
So that's what our teachers have worked on is, you know, taking those standards and then really diving into what does that look like? What do you have to be able to do? What are the foundational pieces that come before that, which might mean looking at the grade level below and what do you have to do before, which we did a long time ago, like as even mid-level ELA teachers looked at like the vertical alignment of the standards. So I think for our teachers, like just a little side note, it's one piece that I think has improved the culture of our buildings because they're not labeled as failures, because they have opportunities to grow. There's less frustration with some of our kids that do typically or would give up in October.
When you say another benefit is that I have heard students at the mid-level campus talking about the standards. So they know what the target is rather than just getting your work turned in. When they actually know what they need to do to accomplish to meet the standard.
Well, it's definitely increase the clarity of what's being taught. Definitely. So yeah, so Michael, just a 3 usually they can apply the standard,
Yeah.
and a 4 means that they can create using the standard, right? So there's that's kind of just a nutshell.
Thank you. That helps. It's kind of what I assumed, but I don't want to assume. And I'm pleased that you've got some good parent feedback, because if I'm a parent, you know, it's great to see what that letter grade is, but as a parent, it's nice to know kind of the why and what can I do to help my kid, and what are the areas that they need. So that's real tangible feedback. So that's, you know, it's not just, well, you got a B-, you better bump that up to an A without, you know, that doesn't really, there's no plan, if you will, of what that may be. And it seems like in a prior school presentation, it was students wanting to go back and recomplete the assignment to get to the standard, to get to the higher standard, or the mastery-based standard.
Yeah, I had a
So-
parent tell me that it was like night and day, because the previous year, that the kid was getting a bad grade. She was afraid that the kid was starting to lose interest in school, and she was starting to lose the kids. If they don't have interest in school, what am I gonna do?
Yeah,
She said this year, by having the standard-based program, the student knew exactly what they needed to do to get their score from a 2 to a 3, and they were planning to retake the assessment and get to the 3, and they were very motivated by this grading system.
right.
Steve?
So I really like this idea, and, you know, just the kids will learn something instead of just get a grade and still don't know it. But just hypothetically, what do you do? I'm trying to figure this out. What do you do with a student that ends the year with a 1?
It's a great question, because it's something you got to tackle. Is you got to be able to adjust, and you have to differentiate, and you got to pick them up where they're at. Or the other side of your question is, what do you do with a student who shows a 4 very early in the course, and they're ready to pop out the top side, right? So
Because I mean, we're not holding kids back like the old, we just don't do that anymore, right?
Those are the students, so we have, tiered systems of support. And so when we start seeing that there are kids, I mean, there's always a story behind that, right? If you're getting if you don't have a score, you're getting a 1, there's something going on because our teachers are going to intervene and they're going to give kids every opportunity to learn what they need to learn. And so that's an opportunity for one of our teams, like our care team or our community and school student advocates to connect with families. Maybe they're not coming to school consistently. That's a big barrier. That's typically what we see. If they're getting 1s, a lot of times it's because they're not at school. And so the teacher doesn't even have enough evidence to show whether or not, they haven't had enough opportunities to meet the standard. So I think that's where we have people keeping track of those, like our student advocates look at attendance, look at, who's struggling, and we have to do something. We typically do not pull kids back in. I mean, it doesn't matter what system you're in, right? You
Right.
can pull a bunch of kids back in the traditional system either.
Thank you. I have a question, Dr. Finch. How do you, and I don't think I've asked this before. So college and the high school. Well, one, I'll back up. I'm like Michael. I love this idea. I mean, my son graduated back in, what was it, 08 or something like that. He did Running Start, got a head start of UW, and did UW and a lot shorter. So I mean, that whole concept is awesome. So I like the idea of it happening on campus. How do you determine or judge, or do you work with the colleges on how do you determine that the classes we teach are rigorous enough?
That's a great question. So every teacher on this campus who teaches a college class has a person at the college campus, a professor that they meet with.
Oh,
So they meet every summer and they review the expectations for the class, they review the class final, they review the instructional materials. And that's why sometimes we have instructional materials that come to the instructional materials committee because the professor has said we've upgraded our materials. And so that's where we consider upgrading our materials. So there's definitely collaboration for every class that we teach. There's a colleague at the college level that works together. And then there's certain criteria that our teachers have to fulfill. Is that right? I mean, Jed's actually the point person for all this. So.
No, yeah, there is certain, and it depends on the department of the university, so that's sometimes a hard part. But yes, there's certain requirements. Some might be a master's in the subject area. It can vary. Sometimes it's just a master's in education along with, endorsement in that area. So there's a number of different things, but I think it's really a partnership. Central does some great trainings every summer, whereas the teachers that do that, they teach courses through there, up there, and they do a really good job. There's a lot of communication back and forth with the instructors. We have success specialists that can come from the colleges down and talk to the students about the programs. There's a lot of good communication. So the colleges have done a great job at working with high school instructors to make them feel like they're in the know and the levels are the same. And then they evaluate too is the students that are coming that already go on to the next level of courses, are they meeting the standards that the university wants to see? So there's a number of checks and balances, but I think the state's done a good job of really trying to wrap themselves around and provide a lot of supports for the instructors and the universities. We have really great instructors here. I mean, that's after hiring, the admin here, everywhere else is we hire some instructors that have good quality and good qualifications to help us out as we go to teach those courses.
thank you.
All right, very good. Well, thank you again to our presenters.
Thank you.
All right. Moving on to public comment of a non-discussion agenda items. Any signatures? Anybody coming in?
No one signed it.
Okay. You can still speak if you'd like to, if you haven't signed in. Seeing no one, we'll move on to the action items. We have for approval, the approval of minutes and travel requests. I'd be willing to receive both previous board minutes and travel requests as a single motion, unless you have any questions or discussions on them.
I'll move to approve the minutes and the travel request as presented as one item.
Thank you. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those, same sign. Motion carries 3-0. Items arising? No items arising? Okay, and superintendent report.
All right, superintendent's report was a review last week. So we had graduation ceremonies for the Innovation Center, Virtual Academy, and the high school. So Innovation Center, there were 28 students who participated in the graduation ceremony. Virtual Academy, 24 students. High school, 358 students. That's a total of 410 students celebrating graduation last week. In addition, we do have GED completion programs in West Valley. We have what's called RAM Flex, which is here at the high school, and that's taught by Ruth Vaselka. We've had a lot of success for GED completion this year in RAM Flex. We also have a partnership with the OIC of Washington, where students are doing hands-on learning on their campus, and it's basically a partnership where we run that open doors, and that's also called a dropout re-engagement program. So overall, through RamFlex and Open Doors, we had 13 students who completed their GED this year, and we actually have quite a few in the queue that may finish by the end of June. When you add that 410 and 13, that's 423 students that had success and were able to celebrate that last week. So
Awesome.
very, very happy about the success that our students are having. And then finally, on the long-range facilities plan, I basically shared that previously, but the priorities identified by the committee were Tandem Valley, Mountain View, and the mid-level campus. And then, of course, there's the outstanding items for capital projects as well. The board had asked for a recommendation on that as well. So we do have a schedule coming that on Tuesday, July 8th, at our board meeting on Tuesday, July 8th, we'll have a presentation, and looking forward to members of the committee being there. And we have also invited, of course, the consultants that helped to facilitate, Phil Crocker and David Bodine, and in addition to that, Corey Plager, who did a previous presentation for us about the feasance of funds. He also will be available to look at what bond rates could be if you look at bond and levy with the high school bonds coming off, and how basically the work that is part of the long-range facilities plan could be accommodated through basically replacement of the tax rate and not necessarily increase. So we'll just look at what Corey's going to be able to present on July 8th as well. So we'll have both the committee and we'll have Corey Plager.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Dr. Finch.
Thank you.
Board reports, board development.
Well, I just, a couple of things. First of all, we were all at graduation last week. It was another great time, great student performances, great student speeches. Perhaps we could, in the future, have some sort of a speaker that for the people that are on the stage. I don't know what it sounds. I'd be curious to know what it sounds like to everybody else, but it's a little
Charlie Brownish.
a little bit. But it forces all of us to listen very closely. But it's really neat to see. I've been going to a lot of graduations, and as a student, and now as a school board member later on. And when I graduated from West Valley a long time ago now, we did not fill up the Sundome, and Friday night was packed to the rafters, so that was great.
That's cool.
Secondly, I want to highlight something to the board. I shared this with Dr. Finch already, but our assistant principal and athletic director, Jeff Jameson, and baseball coach Blake Archer hosted the teams that were coming in to practice ahead of the 3A, 4A state baseball tournament a few weeks ago. And one of those teams is Mount Vernon High School, and one of their assistant coaches is one of my best friends from high school, and he is a teacher at Mount Vernon, and he sent me a specific thank you note thanking both Jeff and Blake for their hospitality and the use of our fields, and just what a great experience they had here at West Valley. And this past school year, and so I highlight that to the board, and I shared that both with Dr. Finch and Jeff directly, but I wanted to share that with the board. But this year, I want to say that this particular school year, I've received that email, that thanks. That's a very common thing that I get as an individual school board member. A lot of times as school board members, we get a lot of concerns, and that comes with the territory of being a school board member. But it feels like this year I received a lot of thanks and good jobs, and we really appreciate what a particular staff member or a teacher or administrator is or has done for their students or their particular situation. And a lot of that stuff goes unnoticed. And I could go on, every board report, it feels like, with an email or something that I received in that respect. So I just wanted to say, as we close another school year, and I've said this before, it takes a lot to make school work, to make the school experience work, and it starts with our administration and our wonderful teachers and our staff as well. We have, we're in a constant growth mindset here in this district, of which I'm very proud of. But we do a lot of things right and a lot of things that don't get publicized, that people don't want publicity for, and they do it anyway, and because it's the right thing to do. And so I just wanted to say thank you to our staff and all of our employees for a great school year.
I also wanted to add, I was also able to attend the Innovation Center and WVVA graduation at the Innovation Center, and a lot fuller than last year, which was awesome. And I've already told Jed this personally, but I just love the students that spoke. They were just articulate and sharp, and job well done. And I love the way you sectioned it off into the different disciplines each spoke. And I was just, that was really, I'm glad I went. I'm glad I was able to go. Last year was smaller and it was so good. But this year I walked in, I go, whoa. There's a lot of people in here. So thank you.
That's awesome. That's good. All right. With no further business, the meeting is adjourned at 8:01 p.m.